At this point, the Railgun almost feels like a requirement for any sci-fi shooter. It almost always has a design similar to this, with little bits of it that move for some reason, and is also usually a prototype, even hundreds of years into the future. Like, you'd think it'd be done by now, right? Anyways, Helldivers' take on the Railgun is rather unique, playing into both the fact that it is a prototype and Helldivers' satire by having both a safe firing mode and an unsafe firing mode. Safe mode limits your gun's charge to 50%, and in this mode, it functions just like how you might expect a video game Railgun to function. You hold left click for a short charge up and release to fire. Pretty basic. In unsafe mode, however, well, this is where the fun begins. In exchange for a longer charge up, you can do some immense damage to enemies, with it now being capable of one-shotting enemies that it couldn't previously. However, if you charge it up too much... oops. By the way, if you're using the fortified passive, you can survive this explosion, which is pretty funny. When I first started playing in the 1.0 version of the game, the Railgun was something that I wanted immediately as soon as I saw it in the stratagems menu. However, after acquiring it, it was kinda disappointing for 3 reasons. The first reason is that for me, I typically want some kind of utility in my loadout that allows me to destroy the bot fabricators and bug holes. Sure, I could just use grenades, but stuns came out pretty soon after I started playing and are too good for me not to use, so the Railgun unfortunately just wasn't cutting it. Besides, I preferred taking them out from a longer distance anyways. The second reason is that it also got a heavy nerf shortly after I acquired it, so that also soured my opinion of the weapon for a while. Recently though, with some buffs to the Railgun and the addition of the Democratic Detonation Warbond, that has changed. The Warbond has not 1, not 2, but now 3 separate weapons that are all capable of destroying buildings. I'm not going to go in depth into these guns, but I do have my thoughts that I'll probably put on screen, so pause if you care to read about that. Despite all this, however, I kinda ignored the Railgun until pretty recently, only coming back around to it because I needed something very, very specific. Personally, I prefer playing against the bots. There's not any specific reason as to why. I do still find bugs to be enjoyable when hunters don't headshot you, and a full Scorched Earth loadout is hilariously fun, but I just prefer bots. If I had to guess, I'd say it's probably due to the bots having more obvious weak points, as well as it feeling like a movie with lasers and shit flying everywhere. It's just so cool, look at it. So, with that said, I was looking for a weapon or loadout that was good against bots specifically. And before patch .400, enemy spawns were out the fucking wazoo. Meaning that, especially against enemies that can shoot back at you, I needed more stims if I wanted even a chance of staying alive. So, for a while, I was running a combo of heavy medic armor and the autocannon. I had more stims, and the autocannon was great at taking out bots. This worked and is probably better now with the recent changes, but I needed something even more specific. With how many Hulks could spawn all at once, as well as all the Devastators and Scout Striders, the bane of my fucking existence, the autocannon simply couldn't keep up. Scout Striders are doubly annoying because they can occasionally land 3 headshots in a row, meaning you're just dead, so you can just have to treat them like they're gonna one-shot you at any given moment. And now they're even tankier from explosions due to recent updates. Yay! The autocannon could one-shot Devastators if you landed a headshot, but needed at least 2 to kill a Hulk, and Scout Striders are dicks. So, given the limited mag size and the fact that you need to stand still to reload, I had to get my hands on something different. Something faster. Something that could one-shot those damn Scout Striders right back in their stupid face. Enter the Railgun. I forget exactly why I wanted to use it at first. I think I was just messing around with my friend one day and I figured I would give my lesser utilized stratagems a shot. But after just one mission, I realized that the Railgun might actually be exactly what I was looking for. The grenade pistol was able to take care of the fabricators for me, meanwhile the Railgun could kill all of the aforementioned enemies in just one shot, allowing me to completely wipe out the absurd amount of Hulks and other enemies the game was throwing at us. Devastators were no longer an issue as you could charge to about 60% and you can one-shot them in the body, and it could do the same to Scout Striders. And hey, it also gives you a funny ragdoll, ain't that neat? The Railgun also doesn't need a backpack, meaning I could run the supply pack, which gave me both the ability to support my team and 2 whole extra inventories on my back that I could access at any point, giving me 12 stims and stuns to work with along with functionally infinite ammo. This meant that I could forego the engineering kit and medkit passives in order to use the fortified passive, which staved off some of the damage from rocket spam. This loadout seemed to work quite well to effectively combat the absurd amount of threats, and given that I was mashing 5 on my keyboard harder than a Vegito player matches 5L, I had a constant supply to fuel my drug addiction. And with functionally infinite ammo, I could basically use a Railgun as my primary. All in all, the Railgun is kind of perfect for taking out bots. So, what's the caveat? okay, so it's not quite perfect. It's actually pretty garbage against all of these, but tanks, even before the recent patch, were infrequent enough that relying on stratagems was pretty reasonable, and towers would eventually turn off, and gunships... Okay, gunships are bastards, but everything else is fine, I promise. However, remember what I said a while ago? However, after acquiring it, it was kinda disappointing for 3 reasons. Yeah, I kinda only mentioned 2 issues, didn't I? First 2, the nerfs and the lack of explosive utility, were both solved, sorta, although it could certainly use some buff still. There is one issue, though, that I still have with the Railgun, and that is simply its design. As fun and effective as the Railgun can be, there's unfortunately not much reason to ever use safe mode. Sure, it can one-shot a Hulk in safe mode, but why waste time swapping between modes when unsafe mode does the exact same, gives you more damage potential for other targets that it needs, and there's plenty of time before, you know. So, how would I fix the current design to fit how I think it should work whilst also buffing it overall? If I was in Johan's position at Arrowhead, here's what I would try. Firstly, I think that safe mode needs to do what the gun does at 60% charge now, that being one-shotting Devastators to the body and Scout Striders to the faceplate. I think the gun should be powerful in safe mode, but even then it wouldn't be the answer to everything. It would also further differentiate the weapon from the anti-material rifle, which cannot one-shot any of these enemies unless it's a Devastator and you land a headshot, of course. However, the AMR can take on all other enemies that the robots will be throwing at you without the need for additional firing modes. The new unsafe mode that I would implement on the Railgun would not be something that just kills you if you charge it up too much, but instead will always do some damage to your health proportional to how long you charge it up. In exchange for doing damage to your health, it would now do significant damage to tanks, gunships, and factory striders, even if you don't hit the weak points. Sure, you'd need to use a stim if you want to use it, which is additional resources going into a stratagem, but this would be an overall buff to its capabilities and would lean into its description more as a weapon designed for armor penetration. It would also lean into the fact that it is a prototype and Helldivers satire, as I mentioned earlier. I would also make it so that it wouldn't immediately explode if you charge it to its max, but would instead kill you in exchange for an extremely powerful single shot. I would love nothing more than to sacrifice myself for my teammates in a My Life for Super Earth type moment by killing a factory strider with a well-placed 100% shot from a railgun. It just sounds so fucking cool. Obviously though, I'm just spitballing here. I'm no game designer and I have no idea how any of this would play out in-game, as it's just on paper. But I really do wish that this is how the Railgun worked, as this is how I thought it worked based off of its description and how I thought as a new player. I'm also fully aware that not everyone would enjoy this kind of risk-reward playstyle, and I imagine that some people who currently use the Railgun would stop using it assuming that this was implemented exactly as is. Hey, editing James here. So I just thought of something in regards to this. So what if instead of eating at your health, the Railgun itself had a health value and charge shots ate at its own health? And unsafe shots obviously wouldn't do that. I feel like that could serve a similar function. Maybe you could repair the gun. I don't know. I just thought of that while editing. As of now, in terms of balance, the Railgun is honestly kind of okay for the most part. In my head, I sort of put it in a similar position to the machine guns, that being a weapon that specializes in killing a specific type of enemy so your friends and or teammates can focus on killing the ones that you can't, as well as the objective. And again, with the exception of gunships, most of the enemies that the Railgun can't deal with are infrequent enough that relying on stratagems is an okay strategy. This is my current loadout that I use most of the time against bots, and it works pretty well for me. Hey, thanks for watching my video. It's been a while since I've uploaded for a few reasons that you probably don't care about, but I do want to start uploading more regularly going forward. This was a very experimental kind of video, at least for me, that is, that I actually really enjoyed making. As for my next video, I need to clear out some space on my hard drive, so I'm just going to take all my leftover Helldivers 2 footage and compile it into one big video, maybe some behind the scenes stuff, but yeah, it'll probably be a long one. Speaking of, how much footage do I have? What?